I gotta tell you, it was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you don't know who's beats, your girl KylerB coming at you with a new video. So today we're going to be talking about the movie Sinners by Ryan Coogler. Directed, written by Ryan Coogler, starring Michael B. Jordan, Haley Steinfeld, etc, etc, etc. So in this movie, basically, I watched it in theaters the other day, and basically it's definitely a very great movie. Ryan Coogler definitely needs his awards for this because he definitely told a story. Even though it's featuring vampires, it has like jump scares. I would say on the range of scary. It's not so much scary, but more so like a thriller that you're kind of like they have like a few jump scares or little scenes that you get so suspenseful with that you're kind of like anticipating like what happens next, whatever. But it's such a great movie. He deserves his awards and accolades for this movie, for what he was trying to tell with it. So Sinners is basically set in Mississippi, 1932. Basically the story starts out with these two twin brothers, Smoke and Stack. They're from Mississippi, but for 7 years they went to Chicago and wherever else they were at, doing whatever they do. So they kind of like do these kind of like illegal things, rob, steal, whatever, shoot, kill people, whatever. So they came back to Mississippi to start up a juke joint. So they brought this juke joint from this white man who essentially has some ties to the Klan. So they tell them like, okay, I gave you the money. If I see any one of your people over here, they're gonna get shot on sight. That's what he said. So he got the money, he left, whatever. So like the first hour of the movie is basically Smoke and Stack getting everybody that they need for this juke joint. They need musicians, they need food, they need a sign, whatever, just to have get a party started. And they have to announce that this is happening tonight. So they have to announce it to everybody. This is by word of mouth, nothing else. Same day, they came in town the same day. They're gonna tell you guys there is a party at this juke joint, grand opening. Come, everybody come, whatever. Bring your money, whatever. Get ready to dance, da 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 da. So they have this cousin named Sammy. So Sammy is a preacher boy. Their father and Sammy's father were brothers. All that. So Sammy's father was like, essentially, why you want to go over there to a juke joint while you could be in the house of the Lord? And they basically gave you a premise or on this movie that there's people who have the musical gift that if how you sing or whatever can conjure spirits or whatever. People can sense the gift that you have and whatever. It can bring bad spirits or whatever spirits to you. So essentially this is what Sammy has, that type of gift that can bring all these type of things to him. Sammy's riding with his cousins around town, trying to get ready for this juke joint, whatever. So you're basically meeting these characters. So we meet Slim, who's basically a drunkard, but he can play he's a good musician. He can play the blues really well. Pick him up along the way. They go to the Chows. They right in the Mississippi Delta. They can do once you give them some money, they can get things working. So they got the set up for the juke joint. Get the sign set up, all that set up. So then the last thing that they had to do was Smoke. He went to Annie, who is his wife. And she's a good cook. So he asked her to cook some type of fish for the juke joint. But also, he left Mississippi. He left his wife for over 7 years. So we kind of figure out this backstory that his wife had a miscarriage and they lost their child. So that's what's going on. And his wife also deals with some type of whatever she deals with. He was like, oh, why couldn't your little mojo Jojo couldn't protect our child, because like the same way the Mojo Jojo is protecting him, because she, for 7 years he's been gone. They haven't seen each other, so it's like, okay, you alive and well, like, but he's wearing this like Mojo Jojo thing, whatever, on his neck. Anyhow, they rekindle, you get the scene rekindle, and there's kind of like some discourse that people didn't know that Annie was his wife. I'm just like, in the first 3 to 5 minutes of Annie being on screen, he was like, they basically spoke about their dead child. Like, they basically said, well, why couldn't you protect our child? That's what he told Annie, or asked Annie that, before they got to the rekindling situation. So it was very obvious, that she was his wife at the time. So, I mean, it wasn't too much context clues. Like, we kind of figured it out before they started kissing and everything. Anyways, so the first hour of the movie is basically the setup of, getting this juke joint together. And then we're at the juke joint. So that's the juke joint situation. So the second half of the movie is the vampires. So we see this guy running in the fields, and, he goes to this house, and, as soon as he knocks on the door, these two white people with guns were like, oh, why are you knocking on our door, or whatever. But we find out that they're Klan members. Because they think like, oh, the Klan is, outlawed, or there's no Klan here. There's Klan. So, he asked for help, like, oh, somebody's after me, whatever. Come to find out, the Native Americans come shortly after, knock on the door, and it's like, did somebody come by here? And, they so racist, essentially. They were like, oh, no one's here, da-da-da-da. But come to find out, that person that they let inside their house is a vampire, and, he bit the husband, and then the husband's obviously gonna bit her, Remick is gonna bit her. So basically, that's the vampire. In this review, we're gonna get some spoilers. Like, if you haven't watched this movie, like, sorry to you, you have to see this movie. Like, you just it's a must see. So essentially, once the Native Americans were trying to help you and you didn't want their help, I mean, it is what it is. Let's leave it on to God, essentially. Because, if they offer help and you don't want it, it is what it is. But then again, they're Klan members, so it is what it is. So we're at the juke joint situation. Everybody's having fun, whatever. But we have Mary, who's Haley Steinfeld's character, who essentially, I guess, was like basically a childhood friend with Smoke and Stack, grew up with them. And then, like, later down the line, she had some feelings for Stack. And, I guess he partaking those feelings. But then he left her for 7 years. So now that he's back in town, they're trying to, like, rekindle the situation. But, Stack is like, he don't want no parts. And he's like, well, thinking, like, realistically, like, he's black, she's white. Even though she has, like, a little part black in her, she's essentially white, and society norms is not going to allow that to happen. So they can't really be together. So we find out in the movie that he set Mary's character up with a white husband and everything, but she basically was telling him, like, she didn't want no white man, she wanted Stack, all that. She's basically family to Stack and Smoke. So everybody, even though she's a white person, a white, facing person, she's family to, Smoke and Stack, Annie, all that. So, having the juke joint, we got Cornbread manning the door, everything, all that. The Chows, everybody having fun, whatever. We got Sammy, he's singing the blues. I would say that scene where, obviously the surrealist scene was like one of the best parts of the movie. Just like, Sammy's singing the blues, and then he's basically we're tying in the blues to all the music that, like, comes after the blues in the African American culture and all that stuff, and how it goes into the West African culture, hip hop, R&B, funk, all that. That was like a very surrealistic scene. Like, it was very nice how Ryan Coogler had that. That was like probably the best scene cinema. Like, it was just cinema. Another scene that he very much ate was when Slim was basically retelling the story of how he knows the I think the jail workers on the side of the road. Like, basically, he was just telling the story of how, you know, they got falsely accused of, like, you know, robbing, stealing, or whatever. One person got lynched, and, like, basically, you didn't even have to, you know, you didn't even have to see the visual of somebody getting, you know, beat up and lynched or whatever. You just had to hear it. And that you know, auditory visual that was used to, like, discuss, you know, how somebody essentially was treated back then and, like, falsely accused, and how the times were. And then he just goes into the blues and, like, humming the blues and whatever. That was just such a great scene, because you didn't even have to see, you know, the violence that occurred. You, like, just the retelling and the hearing, and, like, hearing, like, the background and the auditory aids that that was used in the movie, was just so nice. Like you didn't have to see the auditory aid was enough for us to feel like we know what was going on, you know. So that was, like, a really, really good scene that Slim had. The cornbread scene and all that stuff. The vampires, essentially, you know, was a twist that Ryan Coogler had, which was, like, very interesting to see. We have Remek's character, who is, like, this ancient Irish vampire, and he already got his 2 people. So he was trying to get inside the juke joint, and they were like, no, you can't come inside. Like, you know, this is not a place for you. You know, you don't seem right. Like, the way he was trying to get inside so bad. And then obviously he's a white man, and, like, he don't really seem to, this is, like, you don't really seem too safe to let inside. Mary went outside. She basically talked to them. And then as soon as, you know, Mary turned her back and was like, yeah, you guys got to get to stepping. As soon as Remek, like, basically lift up in the air, I was like, whoa, like, that's what we doing? We can lift up in the air like that? And he basically bit Haley. Haley went into the room, back into the juke joint. She asked Cornbread to get inside, so that's how she got inside. And then she went with Stack. Stack over here having a little time. And then she bites Stack, kills Stack. As soon as she kills Stack, essentially, everything went left. Like, forget Mary getting bite. As soon as Stack gets bitten and she, you know, kills him, party over, party done. And then the Chows are just, like, another set of characters, because if Grace didn't send Bo outside to get the car, Bo would have been still inside. But Bo went outside. Bo obviously got, you know, bitten. Cornbread, he had to pee, and Cornbread got bitten. Like, it was just so, like, everybody, as soon as everybody got outside that juke joint, they were gone. They were left for dead. And everybody was trying to get inside. Now, Grace is definitely the op, because she really risked everybody's life and told them to come inside. And I'm just like, you only got enough, like, how many guns you have? Like, hello? Like, you only have just enough guns, and you have a whole, you know, crew of vampires outside. Like, you thought that was gonna fend them off? So I think she killed her husband with the stake, and then she burned up as well. But I mean, at the end of the day, if they were gonna come for their daughter, she really didn't have nothing left, you know, but it was sad, really, because, like, you know, it's 1932, you only have your husband and your daughter, and if you thought your daughter was gonna get, you know, attacked too, you know, it was kind of like a very unfortunate situation. Come to find out, like, you know, the whole fight scene with Stack and Smoke fighting, and, you know, Smoke almost stakes Stack, but we don't really see him actually stake Stack. So we come to find out later on what happened. Sammy, he almost gets bite by Remek, and, you know, they're out in the, you know, the water, and then, like, he's saying the Lord's Prayer. And, you know, it also, like, talks about how, like, even the devil knows, like, you know, scripture, even, like, the word of the Bible. You know, he's like, everybody also, like, you know, reciting the scripture from Sammy, because I guess they were saying that, you know, once you get bitten or whatever, you can read their minds or whatever. But it's just like, wow. So then, you know, all that happens. Like, I'm not trying to tell you guys too much, but I basically told you guys enough if you haven't seen the movie or whatever. So, you know, the scene in the water, then Smoke, basically, he stakes Remek. And like, he was an old ancient vampire, you know, so it took him a while to really, like, you know, break down. But, you know, Annie said that you have to kill all of them one by one. So I'm just like, even the ones that burned down, are they really dead? Or I don't know. So then we come to find out, you know, Sammy, he gets home and he goes back to church because it was basically Sunday was the next day. Basically, that is basically like the prodigal son returning home. Like, if you don't tie that in, is the prodigal son returning home to his father. Like, hello, his father warned him about going outside and doing all these things of the world. And after everything that happened to him, the prodigal son returned to his father. Granted, he was beaten up, scratches all over his face, all that messed up, you know, but is the prodigal son returning? So then the end credit scene that everybody really talks about is that Smoke and Stack are still alive. Not Smoke and Stack. Stack and the Mary are still alive. And, you know, it's 1992. So that's 60 years since that night. So then we hear something that Stack says that, you know, he hasn't seen the daylight since that night. So I'm just like, in vampire lore, there's no daylight rings. Like, you have to basically be like waiting until nighttime, till dusk, the sun is down to actually come outside. Like, there's no daylight rings. I thought there would have been daylight rings, especially of all these times. Like, you know what's going on. Like, you really got to be waiting till night to actually come outside. But we see older Sammy. He still has the same scars on his face, so it was actually nice to see that touch from that night to an older guy with scars on his face to like represent Sammy. They're playing the blues, but like Stack and Mary are still alive. So I'm just like, wouldn't Smoke still be alive? But Smoke, I guess, you know, he's seeing his daughter and Annie, like, while he's in between life and death stage. You know, I guess he just bled out after he killed the clan. Because the clan, they, even without the vampires and all that stuff, if they had a good night and everything went according to plan, the clan was supposed to come back and shoot up Smoke and Stack. So if he didn't find out that information from the husband and wife duo, that they're actually clan and that was a killing ground, you know, he probably wouldn't have got the jump on the clan. But he was waiting for the clan. He had his sniper ready, his shooter, he got his guns ready, everything. Like, it was just showing you about these times that, like, all this is going on. But this is, like, a really good movie. Like, if you haven't seen it, you know, you kind of got spoiled. But go and see it. It's really a good movie. Ryan Coogler deserves his awards. PJ deserves his awards. But, yeah, tune in to Sinners. You know, it wasn't that scary. There is some jump scares. A little bit of thriller, you know. But there is also a message, too, behind the movie. And the cinema, he definitely ate with the cinema. So, give him his, you know, claps and snaps. But anyway, guys, if you like this video, comment down below, let me know your thoughts, comments, concerns. Do you subscribe to my channel? Subscribe. Anyway, thank you guys for watching this video. Peace.